This is just the beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome along. Monday, 8 p.m. and the gang is back together. It is the Online Darts Live Lounge. Me, Phill, Bars, Jack Garwood and Lee Boyce. We all return tonight. Gentlemen, it's been a while. How are we all?
We're good, mate. Apparently, you didn't get the memo. What on earth are you wearing?
Mr. Bars, letting the side down.
It'll do. I've gone for the just a casual look, you know.
I like how you didn't even try and sneak the word smart in before that. It's just casual.
No, just casual tonight, lads. You know. Yeah, I'm just checking my phone.
It's definitely,
it's definitely
casual because definitely casual because the shorts and flip flops are on lower down, so definitely not smart casual.
Yeah, I've seen them walk in the kitchen already before the show started. They're definitely on. To be fair, I am in shorts and sliders myself.
Making the
trousers and shoes,
because autumn is well and truly on the way, so we'll make the most of it. Welcome along, chat room as well. Nice and busy as always. Great to have you all along. Lendl, Daniel, how are we doing? It's Scala Rose, of course. Kevin, how are we doing? Alex, Andrew, James, Jody, Harry, Max, Tommy, welcome aboard, everyone. It's going to be a busy 2 hours, but first of all, apologies. You're going to be stuck with us for most of the show like this. It's been manic, and when I say manic, we have been literally rushed off our feet for the last 3 days, so there's no slides or anything. We're just going to chat darting nonsense for a couple of hours. It's been a busy weekend, shall we say, boys?
Yeah, it's a busy weekend, and they continue now until the end of the year. Unless you've got a different calendar to me, it doesn't look like it's going to stop until the new year.
No, not a chance. Again, chat room, I hope you had a good weekend. Get your darting weekend memories in. What did you get up to? Let us all know. But it was nice. We had some ranking action, boys, return. None of the Expo stuff is... Get some of those rankers in, mate.
That was a great time for snooker when he was just mopping up everything, just going, yeah, I just want the ranking points. And he couldn't give a crap about ranking points. He was obviously warned to be more approachable for the tour.
Yeah, but now he's gone the other way. He pulls out of events, jets off on holidays, then does a Gezi and has an Instagram live rant telling everyone he's bigger than snooker. Well, you know.
No comment.
I'll tell you what, if Gezi did that, if Gezi pulled out of the European Championships, went on holiday and did an Instagram rant saying he was bigger than darts, you'd be all over it.
Yeah, because he's
We
not
wouldn't
bigger
hear the
than
end of it.
darts. Ronnie is bigger than snooker. There's a big difference.
We wouldn't hear the end of it.
Again, we've just shared some links on social media, so make sure you give us a follow, give us a thumbs up because it does brilliant for the analytics, and share the links all around. Mace is in from his hotel. Seen a lot of him over the last few days. That's part of the reason why we've got no slides or nothing, because it's just been absolutely non-stop. We will come on to the Super Series shortly because it has landed, boys. But first of all, we'll go straight into PDC ranking action. The World Series is done and dusted. And before we get on to the actual darts themselves, although Joe Cullen won it, there was a distinct jet lag factor to everyone that went to Australia and New Zealand. And in fairness, Joe didn't play well either until the semi-finals. He was certainly in that bracket, but got away with it early on. The World Series folks just didn't look themselves.
Yeah, I think you're bang on. And we've seen this issue multiple times in years gone by in the lead up to the World Match Play. And look, whilst it's only affecting a European Tour event rather than the World Match Play, is much better for the players. It is still clearly an issue that 3 weeks down under, hop in between place to place. You don't drive anywhere in Australia. You fly to New Zealand, you fly back. You have 48 hours at home maximum where you try and get your sleeping pattern back, and then you're straight on a flight again to Hungary. Like, look, they're being paid, and they're being paid very, very well for it. And like, oh, don't complain. There are people like that. They're professional athletes. They should be given every opportunity to go and compete at their best level. Because look, the PDC are going to constantly pick players based off how they think they're going to sell tickets. Players losing in the first round, not a good idea. So, yeah. Started already.
Yeah. He's off. We put 50p in the meter and away we go.
1 week off, he's back.
The other thing as well, it looked as if at the start of play on Friday, we had a full quota European tour. And then right at the last minute, we had a couple of dropouts. That one of them I can totally understand, and I really hope Roby John's daughter is okay after surgery and can fully understand why he chose not to travel and why it was late as well, because the operation was only on Thursday. We wanted to see how it was and whatever. Completely understand that. And then Gazzy at the last minute decided not to go and goes to the Greyhounds instead and watch his dog win the Welsh Derby, was it?
How much more are you putting in that meter to start him off?
Maybe he's just bigger than darts.
Well, you know what, Joe, sorry, looking at results this weekend, it probably wasn't a bad move. I know the timing wasn't great, and I'm not a fan of someone dropping out on the Friday unless it's unforeseen circumstances or what we saw probably with Roby. But you know what? It probably wasn't a bad move having the weekend off, because if you'd have done like the rest of, or the majority of the players, it would have been a bit of a pointless visit other than the couple of grand that are there. So it might not be a bad move.
Or the night out in Budapest is good.
Look, it costs to fly around at the minute as well. He's probably saved himself some cash if you get an early exit, especially if you go out early, you don't get any ranking money either. Like, let's not forget, as a seed, you have to win that first game for it to contribute to that. So, look, I highly doubt Gerwin Price is desperate for the cash.
No,
I'm sure he had a nice
game. He's safe for European Championships. I expect he'll gear up his workload over the next few weeks again. I'm just with you, Lee. If you knew that was going to happen, then pull out earlier and get a replacement in.
And I'm sure as well to add to the. I know he doesn't need the money, Dob, but I'm sure he had a nice little winner on Saturday as well, as the picture suggested on his Instagram. So I don't think there was a money issue there.
I don't actually follow Gezi on Instagram. I just never miss a post because it's just everywhere.
Yeah,
I don't need to follow Gezi on Instagram.
No, because as soon as he posts, it's on Twitter anyway, because someone screenshotted it and put it out there. Evening, Philip.
Different
Hope
Twitter
you're
accounts
good.
all using the same eye emojis going.
And welcome along, Mike. How are we all doing? Right, we're not going to bash through every first round game because we'll be here forever. We're going to scan over what we consider to be the biggest or a freak result here and there. What we think. First of all, there's a couple that stand out for me. What a weekend for Ryan Meikle, and he kicks it all off by beating Gabriel Clemens 6-4. And great for Meikle, but the German Giant, Boise, is in a little bit of bother right now. The wins aren't as frequent, and he's just struggling a little bit.
Yeah, he's one we've spoken about before over the last few months. There's something just on missing. There was a time where he was by and far German number one, and there wasn't much really talked about since the drop off of Matt Top. But now that there's a lot of talk about Martin Schindler coming through, and Clemens. I don't know if there's been some sort of. Well, I'd still go back to November at the Grand Slam. I'm still not sure we've seen anything worth note of Clemens since that.
When he got sherrocked.
2022 just hasn't been a good year for Clemens. In regards to what he can do, yes, there's been the odd result here and there, but generally it's just been a disappointing year. And Ryan Meikle, impressive win, but not really a surprise with, like says, how Clemens has played.
No, agreed. Another one, Gob, which is the immediate under in the draw bracket. After Lakeside, I was expecting a little bit more. Tricol got to the WDF final. He's not really kicked on since. Losing to Sedlacek. Look, losing to Sedlacek is no blot on his career because Sedlacek can play. It's more the manner of the performances that we haven't seen from Tricol since Lakeside.
Yeah, look, I think that might be a number of things. I think what we're seeing from Tricol is not identical. I think there is a slight difference in ability, perhaps, and ceiling and potential. But I think it's very, very similar to what we're seeing from Diego Portela. In the weight of carrying that entire country steel tip darting hopes in the PDC and trying to forge a name for yourself whilst growing the sport in your country, because that's effectively what they've been tasked to do, is incredibly difficult. And sometimes you can't play your best game all year round. It's just impossible. You're going to have ups and downs, but it's perhaps more noticeable when you are as high profile and effectively the only player from that country that people will recognise. Look, there are a couple of the French players floating about, but if anybody mentions darts and France in the same sentence, everybody knows Tricol. You mentioned Brazilian dart. I bet you two would struggle to name me his partners.
Bob.
No. But you get what I'm saying, and that pressure can't be easy to go around when you're traveling to Hungary, when you're out your home country, etc. So not only is he carrying the expectation and trying to grow that game and do something special every time he gets up on stage, there's a big difference between playing wherever and doing it for your dinner in front of a TV camera.
Yeah, no, agreed. Stephen Bunting was fabulous beating Callum Reid. Callum didn't play too badly, but Bunting was sensational. I'm going to touch on Daryl Gurney here in two parts. Round one, he averages 105, 6-1 winner over Nathan Rafferty. But the drop-off between round one and round two is absolutely ridiculous. Boise. So say he's averaged 105.30 and then 86.84. That's not just a slight dip, that's dropping off of a cliff.
Yeah, it seemed like because he was playing someone who obviously he's quite close to in Nathan Rafferty, that he built himself up and put in an outstanding performance on Friday where many people would have expected this to be closer. The drop then on Saturday is very, very worrying because we know that Daryl Gurney can hit the odds. He's two-time TV champion, and you don't have that if you're not a top player. But it is worrying his form where he can still find that A game, but just not as consistent. And probably more worrying is that B game just seems to have totally disappeared from Derny. And if we don't see him play well, he seems to be having early losses, and not just on Euro Tour and TV events, but actually on Pro Tours as well. So it's a big time for Daryl Derny the back end of this year. That consistency just isn't there at the moment. But we know he's a player who can bring that game and he can find that run sort of from nowhere. So, but he needs a big run soon just to get that confidence back up, even if it is like as a Euro Tour or a Pro Tour. Then to the back end of a tournament would be huge for Daryl. There's worrying signs at the moment.
The Joker is in the house. Evening, John. Hope you are good. Hello, Mark. How are we doing? Any others of round one stand out or leap off before we move into round two?
About him anyway. Lukeman was steady. Chisnell looked good. I guess overall, there's a discussion to be had on the strength or lack of strength in the Hungarian players. Like, I know it's not the most established darting nation in the world. The fans clearly love it. It looked like it was well attended throughout the weekend. A lot of the hope seems to be pinned on Janis Vagso, who didn't play the best. Simon Whitlock played pretty steady as well. But they just seem to be that little bit further behind pretty much every European country that we have darts in, behind the Nordic and Baltic regions, the Dutch, the Germans, even the Belgians seem to just have that little bit more quality and strength in depth, and they're really missing that number one to take them further. I suppose the other surprise is that Patrick Kovacs is Hungarian, isn't he? Did he not qualify?
I don't think so, no. Not yet.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is Hungarian. Yeah, Lendl.
He didn't qualify. We just checked. He didn't qualify last year either for it.
Did he not? Did they not go? Lendl and Ben are in the chat room. They'll know more than we do. Didn't pay attention to the qualifiers. But yeah, look, when you're missing those players as well that can go and make a statement and beat somebody and make that little bit of local news that encourages other people to go as well. At the minute, it's, they held an event here and we got spanked.
Moving into round two. We'll start at the top again, draw bracket order. The streak continues. It's not quite the Undertaker at WrestleMania just yet, but Simon Whitlock is finding a way to keep beating Michael Van Gerwen on a stage right now.
Yeah, does MVG want it a bit too much when he's playing Simon? There was just signs in that you just felt that Whitlock had him and was comfortable throughout. Even when MVG had the lead early on, there was still just part of it that just made me think that Simon was going to get over the line. So there's certainly worrying signs for Michael when he's playing Simon. But falling to what you said at the start of it before we even come into the Euro Tour, still that bit of a jet lag maybe with some of these players, and that could have been seen with Michael because the performance just wasn't there. But for me, it's just sort of a one-off. If we're still seeing this over the next month or two, I still think at the moment he's the player to beat when we come to the next big TV event.
Yeah, look, let's not beat around the bush. The game was shit.
Oh, it was terrible.
But Whitlock's come out. Let's not beat around the bush. It was awful.
Yeah, and just for it to be that sort of game is why throughout I was just thinking this is Simon's. If someone was going to sort of strap to that sort of win with the current record, it was going to be the Wizard. But yeah, I'm with you. It wasn't a great game by any stretch.
Do you think there's that inevitability about it as well in Michael's head? You know when Michael had that ridiculous unbeaten last leg decider streak on the Euro Tour and whatever, and every time, it don't matter what he starts off with, the minute he hits a two treble visit, you're like, oh, because you know about it. When you're 5 behind Simon, every time he does something just that little bit better or that little bit extra, he fires in a 2 treble visit, you're looking at it going, oh, I've seen this story before. And then I think you do start to want it either a little bit too much, or you just deflate a little bit knowing that he just seems to have your number at that minute.
Yeah, quite possibly. Look, it's the same with most sports. You look at cricket, a bowler knows when he's got the wood over a batsman and things like that. So, yeah, it plays on everyone's mind in everyone's sport. So, yeah, absolutely. Evening, Preston. Hope you're good. Evening, weekly darts cast. I'm guessing it's Lau. Yes, I said this, and I was overruled, wasn't I, Gob?
Yeah. Look, we think they've got a great future. This weekend has proven that. However, I think the other two organisations are very similar, have very similar aspirations. And when we get onto a debate on our conversation on recent events for both and the future of amateur darts, I want to know if people's opinion change once we finish discussing that, as well as which one they think at the moment has the biggest future.
However, they're still
the Super Series is not about to pick itself up and traipse you off to some random part of Europe for the weekend.
How about a random part of Hampshire?
All right, thanks.
We said earlier that Clements, there was question marks, Gob. Your Polish eagle that used to like to soar high, right now, those wings aren't even extending. Only averages 80 and gets beaten by Ryan Meikle again. Question marks over Ratajski. Huge question marks.
There is. Off the back of a break that is effectively as long as the World Championship. I'm pretty much giving everybody a free pass this weekend. The players that have travelled on the World Series are knackered. The players that haven't travelled on the World Series have had 4 weeks not playing PDC competitive darts. They might have kept themselves busy, whatever. It's if those results start creeping into the first round of Pro Tours and we've got 8 Pro Tour events in the space of a month or something in blocks, that's where I'll be concerned. The first one is a one-off up on stage, a seeded player, so he's got to wait the extra day, Ryan's played up there, etc. That'll be the concern. Look, in terms of a drop-off of performance, we're not used to seeing Christoph Ratajski average 81 at all. Completely agree. And he's not quite the player that he was when a year ago you could have said he had genuine top 8 aspirations. I don't see that in him at the minute. I think he'd be happy to be top 20 the way he's playing, but we'll have to wait and see how the rest of the season goes for him.
Yeah. Then, another one that jumps off the page, and again, question marks. He, like Gob said, he's almost got a little bit of a free pass because of the World Series, but Dimitri, out of them all, Boise, probably looked the most off the pace.
Yeah, it wasn't great at all, and I know we'll touch on William Altana when we move on to Sunday. So just focusing on Dimmy, it just didn't look right up on the stage. It's sort of like he didn't want to be there, and I'm sure every player goes up on stage and wants to win, but it just seemed like it was just a weekend too far. And we spoke about Price missing a weekend, and it might have been the right time for a couple more to do that. And Dimmy's certainly the top of that list. He looked very, very off this weekend. And then I don't want to sort of pit on that there's huge worrying signs about Dimitri, because we know that he can just sort of flick the switch and turn up and play good like we've seen at Blackpool at times. There's always going to be question marks about his pace of play and the difference between how he can just run off leads at a super speed and then sort of slow right down. All that's there to be seen, but at the moment he just seems to need that probably little bit of a break away from the board. I know he's got a very, very young family. Probably just a little bit of a break away from the board, and then we'll see Dimmy come back to it. And then no sort of huge worrying signs. It's more if we've seen this level of performance over the next 3 or 4 weeks, then there'll be question marks asked. But I guess there's probably an announcement that might include Dimmy this week from the adverts we've seen today.
That's another thing to consider as well. Like it is one of the worst kept secrets in darts, but I'm not going to sit here and say exactly what it is. But when you've left the manufacturer, he is no doubt practicing with other equipment and will have been for a while. So combine all that, and like we just said, look, he's spent weeks traveling, etc. to come back in. The fact that it's affected someone who is as young and as fit as Dimitri, I think just goes to show you how tough this tour is and how well the season pros manage of it. When you look at someone like Peter Wright, all right, I know he's not gone this year, but a 50-year-old doing this tour, and you look at Phill Taylor doing it for the last couple of years of his career, etc. You can see why at the end of it they just go, "Nah, I'm spent, I'm done."
I'll tell you what else. Like, you go on, boss.
Go on, baby. No, all I was going to say on top of that is it's even coming with the I know, right up here. Even coming with the, I heard it a lot while during Peter Wright's staying that he's not planning to play Euro Tour during the Premier League next year if he's in the Premier League, which of course he's going to be. That sort of shows that players now are already looking ahead to see if how they can improve on what's happened this year. And I think we'll probably see a few players look at next year if we have a similar calendar. That come these first couple of Euro Tours in September, that there might be a few more drop out and not just price, because like I said, we're already seeing Peter Wright drop out of the first few because of the Premier League, just to manage that calendar a bit better.
Touching on image and everything like that, talking about Dimitri, look, we all know he left Unicorn on Wednesday. I think it was that Unicorn put it out. In terms of image, wearing that shirt with just a hideous bit of black masking tape over the Unicorn badge looked absolutely horrendous. Now, obviously, this has been on the cards for a while, so surely you either just get a plain shirt with your other sponsors on for the weekend, or you just, for the sake of 40 quid or whatever, you just order another shirt without Unicorn on it, instead of just whopping that hideous bit of black tape over and looking awful. It just looked naff. Like you say, it's not a shock thing. Look, we all know that there are other sponsors on shirts that they're not allowed to wear at certain times. Dimitri, Cross, Bunting, Wright, all have Jennings bet on there. And when the tournament is sponsored by another bookie, they can't wear it. So I get at times they have to cover patches when things happen. But this has obviously been planned for a while. And just get another shirt for the tournament.
It's not a fashion contest.
It was only announced on Wednesday.
It's a one-off. I don't think about
only 2 days to sort it.
If it's for a period of a couple of weeks, and I see what you're saying, but for the sake of one tournament, which was effectively 8 legs for him.
Again, speaking of Rob Cross, he didn't perform, beaten by Jeffrey Dejuan. I'm going to come back to Jose de Souza in a minute. I'm guessing from the Saturday that Josh Rocky's developed again, Gob?
Yep.
I know that Josh played fabulously well to beat Damon Heta, 103.5 average. Peter Wright, the world champion, returned after surgery.
He's better than play fabulously well. He's quality.
Go on.
He's world class. His running average this year is ridiculously good, and I almost feel bad that, like I say this every time, that it's not a dig at Josh, but every time he plays well, we seem to bring up the fact he's allowed to play on a development tour as well, and he's just ridiculous. He is another level. He is, if he stays at this level, if this is his flat game, if this isn't just a purple patch in his opening year and he's managed to settle in really well, if he can handle the pressure of defending money on your ranking list, as some players struggle massively when you're increasing, he's a top 8 player.
Yeah, completely. Barry says, get another background. Don't worry, Bazza. It's on the way. Peter Wright returned, although it wasn't a win. Stanky Bike played all right, considering everything. Surgery and time away, Boise.
Yeah, wasn't sure what we was going to see. But yeah, played very well. Missed 2, I think, match darts, which Jim missed a few as well beforehand, but then finally took it. But Jim played very well to get over the line. Jim wasn't great, survived, I think it was 4 or 5 match starts on the Friday. Stepped it up 10 or 12 in the average against Peter Wright, and that was needed. Otherwise, Peter would have took the game quite easily. So, good signs for Peter Wright. For me, like I says, even though he missed a couple of match starts, he played a lot better than probably I was expecting to with such a long period away from the board. And hopefully we'll see that continue over the next few comps.
Lee, I can confirm we do have the Stephen Burton missing dart. Right, going back, we'll come on to that later on, but going back, because I'm going to go round 2 into round 3. Like we spoke about Daryl Gurney, Jose de Souza averages best part of a ton to beat Raymond Barnwell in a very, very good game. But again, the drop-off is ridiculous. It's not a couple of points here. It's a huge drop-off job, and it's something that Jose is doing more and more. We're still seeing the special performances every now and then, but those special performances are then followed by a howler where he's got away with it here, but in big TV tournaments, you're not going to get away with that kind of drop-off.
No, I think that's a combination of a number of things with Jose. One, I'm still not convinced about his ability to play in front of a crowd. His main lot of success was behind closed doors. 2, he's done a lot of throwing in the last couple of years. A lot of throwing for an action that is very shouldery. And I can't ever think that that'll be taking its toll somewhere, especially one that can... He's got such a snap in his throw occasionally. You know the bad dart, where he drags it incredibly low.
Yeah.
That's got to hurt eventually. And 3, look, just the toll of the tour. We keep saying this. You cannot be at your best 100% of the time, but when the tour is so busy, when you've got so many events, when you've got to travel here, there, and everywhere, I genuinely just think the PDC players are knackered.
Agreed. Right, moving in to the final day. Ryan Meikle continues his fabulous run. He beat Simon Whitlock in a last leg decider. Aspinall beat Sedlacek. Again, fairly comfortable. William O'Connor at the start of the weekend, boys. We haven't spoke about the Magpie too much. Wasn't in a World Championship spot. He certainly is now as he beats Michael Smith. Jose de Souza beats Jeffrey Deswan. Chisnell beats Kirchmar. Josh Rock beats Dirk van Dijvenbode. I think Dirk missed, was it 4 or 5 match starts in that one?
Yeah. The 126 checkout to win it when you're under that as well. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Rusty beat Rasma. Joe Cullen beat Jim Williams. Now we're into the quarterfinals. This is where Meikle's run come to an end, but a fabulous weekend for Ryan Meikle, beaten 6-5 by Nathan Aspinall. Good to see the Asp having a run, but can't help but think he may have got his practice wrong. Then William O'Connor beats Jose de Souza. Again, good from the Magpie. Dave Chisnell batters Josh Rock. Look, Chisnell's played really, really well. Josh Rock didn't find the gears that he did earlier on, but again, another good one for the young man. And Joe Cullen beats Rusty Jake 6-4. The semi-final, we talk about falls. Aspinall only averaging 79 from 99. Boy, see, that's
huge fall. Yeah, huge
over
fall.
practice.
And we've seen, we've seen this before. We've spoke about it quite recently when he's got to the back end. I'm sure we did on the Pro Tour, and that the throw just doesn't look the same. I know the Pro Tour and the Euro Tour are different in regards to being over 1 day and 3, but coming to the back end of these tournaments under pressure in regards to getting to the final or in the final, the throw just doesn't look the same, and he didn't seem comfortable at all in this one, and that was shown with an average of 79, which we are not used to seeing in a PDC semi-final at all. And William O'Connor just took advantage. He wasn't great. He didn't do anything sensational really in the game, but just took the amount of chances that he was given to him by the Asp. But then Aspie's dating to the back end of tournaments. That's why we're talking about him in semi-finals and finals. But when he's there, he just doesn't look the same player as he does early on in these competitions.
And then Dave Chisnell again missed an opportunity. Joe Cullen punishes in a last leg decider, but again, it's one that got away from Chisnell. And the final, congratulations to Joe Cullen, his third European Tour title goal, an 8-2 winner over the Magpie. Like we say, good weekend for William O'Connor. He said in his interview afterwards that if you'd have given him the final before the weekend started, he'd have ripped your arm off for it. But the rock star was rocking in Budapest.
He was, and I probably think that the performance against Dave Chisnell the round before was the one that won in this title, without being disrespectful. Look, Willie's not quite showed up in this final. Joe's got the experience of being up there, of doing it, and of winning two before. And look, by that point, he'd found his range, he'd found his groove, and he looked pretty solid. But that win over Dave Chisnell the round before was the one for me. Chizzy looked like the player of the tournament. His finishing was unbelievable all weekend. And the quarterfinals, he just started to find the treble 20 and score like we know Dave Chisnell can. I'm like, you ain't stopping him when he gets in that mode. So, yeah, look, superb effort from Joe Cullen, especially as we've spoken about at the start, the travelling, being on the World Series, and the effect it seems to have taken on everybody else that made that trip. It's a superb result for Joe Cullen. Nicely placed on the European Championship Order of Merit. Job done. And if he wants to now, he can pick and choose for the next couple of weeks. And he's set perfectly.
Completely agree. And with that, the World Championship race hots up. Ryan Meikle has moved himself up to 9th in the race for the World Championships. Fabulous weekend for him. William O'Connor is up to 16th. He's come from nowhere. Steve Beaton is fallen outside again. Some big names just outside the World Championship list. Some players that need to get there for their tour cards as well. Jeffrey Dejoin also holds that last spot. So good for him. Also off the back of this one, the race for the European Championships in Dortmund. Again, William O'Connor and on countback is into that 32. Where do we think, money-wise, the cut-off is going to be for this European Championships?
Not a clue. What we got? 3 events left. 2 events left.
3. Jena, Belgium, and Gibraltar.
Around, I think Jose's in.
Yeah, I think Jose's guaranteed. I'm trying to work out if there's enough money for Josh to be in or not. I think around that 15K is the mark. If Josh gets any more, then I think he'll be paid.
Yeah, I think there's that little gap there with that 2.5K between Jose and Josh Roth, which is probably around where that cut-off is. 24 down here, still potential, but if Josh is in more... James isn't in anymore, is he?
No.
I don't think so.
And that's a worry.
Yeah.
For Wadey. Because I think he'll be around that mark. He'll be in that last weekend. I think Wade will be sitting around 31st, 32nd, and it'll just be waiting on results.
Yeah. Also, the big news that broke over the weekend was the Modus Super Series. We've been teasing this for a while. We knew what was coming, boys, didn't we? We knew I'd been there a lot, but you've always had seen pictures of the venue, and it finally broke. The new purpose-built venue for the Modus Super Series launched on Saturday night. And I think the words we're looking for is, wow, what an arena, boys, to play darts in.
Tidy, even with the dropping of your dart down a smoke machine. But yeah, it looks fantastic. The setup has just gone up another level. We've known it's been coming for a while, but just the quality and the effort that has gone into the production now. Multiple commentators, presenter, the stage looks clean, Brandon looks fantastic. Launch night was brilliant. I've had it on for the last, today as well while I've been working. Prize money up is only a good thing, especially looking forward to that Champions Week, which has probably been the most difficult thing to talk about the last few weeks, because we're 5 weeks into this, knowing full well what players are playing for, and we're just like, oh, they've qualified for Champions Week. And we're like, well, what does that mean? And we're like, no idea.
To be fair, I'm amazed the players kept it quiet because the players have known as well. Is the thing. The players knew what they were playing for, and the fact that they've kept it quiet as well has been nothing short of remarkable. But this is a real statement for players outside the 128. Not just that, Phill Taylor did some punditry and some comms at the weekend, and he brought this up as well. Now, players in the world rankings, I'm just going to get them up here. So, players from 65 and down, the hallowed 64 line, some of those have got a real decision to make now, because this is serious prize money. That there is over £1 million in prize money on offer per year at the Modus Super Series. Now, John Henderson, Willie Borland, two that I'm just looking at because they're at my eye line, in the last 2 years have only earned £54,000 on their order of merit. Players are genuinely going to have a decision to make now. Because we've said it for a long time, that going to a Pro Tour event, you are not guaranteed anything. If you lose, there is nothing coming in. Where now, there's guaranteed money, plus carrots, huge carrots, for winning events. It's a real decision to be had.
I do honestly think each player will look at it differently. It depends on where you are in sort of your steps. So like a Willie Borland and a Louis Williams, I'm just naming 17, 72, same as you're looking at sort of the eye line. They will look at it that they've got 20, 30, 40 years in darts as a profession, that decision probably is a little bit easier for them because they will be driven towards being a professional darts player, playing on the circuit, still with sponsors and all that sort of things. However, the other players it sort of looks to have sort of slipped a little down the rankings, as you've mentioned in a John Henderson. I know Beaton's dropped a little, but should have his Tortard, Glenn Durrant. There's other names in there where this now opens it up that you can have a successful darts career and not be a professional in the terms of PDC. You can move away from it and still earn an awful lot of money, because I know we've got the organisations up in our poll of WDF and ADC. There's those where you can compete in those organisations, potentially even in both, and still play in the Super Series, and still potentially go and play in the seniors, which has been some even more great announcements today around that when you're at that sort of age of, more than anything 50 plus, but probably even around 45 sort of down up, you can sort of plan your next few years. And if you're still playing at a very good standard, even if you're not in that top 64, around that age, that's where there's serious consideration. The younger players, probably not so much. And I guess another part of that is not just, the age, but also, obviously, these players are heavily sponsored. So it would be interesting to see what's in those sort of sponsorship deals, because, yes, the PDC does give you massive audiences, the biggest audiences in darts. However, playing on a Pro Tour week in, week out, but not on TV, doesn't. But playing on Modus Super Series does. That puts you on TV, at least 4 or 5 times a year, you would suggest, even if you're not then to finals week. So there's other opportunities there for sponsors as well. So it's be interesting to see how those conversations are to sort of come across with players.
Yeah, well, you say that. Yes, that at the top end, the PDC gives you exposure to millions and upon millions of viewers and an audience. However, if you're 64 and down, you're not in a lot of TV. You may not be in any TV. So all of a sudden, that millions upon millions as an audience isn't there. Lendl, I think you're wrong there, mate. and I say this with, there will be an interview coming out where there is a high-profile name that has already said he will not go to Q School this year because he can earn more money outside the PDC. And I've spoken to at least 3 current tour card holders that are genuinely considering handing back their tour card because there is more opportunity for them outside the PDC. Now, look, this is never going to replace the PDC at the top end, and George fully explained it. It's not meant to do that. But realistically, the way the PDC is structured, Gob, 64 and down, right now, there's not a lot of benefits.
I think the perfect person to look at this is John Henderson. Currently ranked 69th in the world. And when you break it down, £54,250 is £27,000 a year, minus taxes, minus percentage splits with management costs. And all right, you might replace some of that with sponsorships and whatever, your own appearances and bonuses. And if you make a non-ranked TV event or exhibition work, etc. But exhibition work will still be there for somebody that's a World Cup champion like John Henderson in the future. And that is where that decision needs to be made. Because if you can earn your entire week's salary in a field that is, look, without being disrespectful, John Henderson has more chance of rocking up and winning a live league Super Series week than he does rocking up and winning a European tour.
Of course.
Because they're similar in price, or 2 pro tours, shall we say, in the same weekend. Job done. And you've earned the money for the year. And that's the difference. So, yeah, look, there's definitely considerations for players at different ends of their career. I completely agree with Lee. The likes of Louis Williams and Willie Borland, etc. I still think that players like that, their future is going to lie in the PDC and wanting to break into that top 64. And if they don't do it this year, they'll go back to Q School and keep trying. But they've got careers of 30 years ahead of them if they want it. We've seen that from players of the game. So, yeah, for those coming towards the end of their career, where less travelling, less hassle, guaranteed income from appearances and whatever else, perfect. And the other thing to consider, John Henderson is 49 years old.
Correct. Yeah, look, it's interesting. And Lendl, you say that he's not good enough to make it in the PDC. That there's a difference between making it as a PDC player, which realistically, in my opinion, it's only the top 32 make good money. The rest don't. For some, it's just a job. It's something that they're good at, and it beats working a 9 to 5. And if you're a plumber and you're offered more money to change companies, what are you going to do? God, you've moved job a few times in the last couple of years because someone offered you more money. What I'm saying is it's no different. If you're a dart player and you can earn more money elsewhere, it's a no-brainer. And look, John O'Shea said it there. Absolute no-brainer. I'm 47 and I certainly would consider it. There you go. John's had a fabulous opening year on his tour, but he's openly said there he would consider it because of the financial rewards now on offer. So, look, it's there. It's certainly one to look out for. And I thought George explained it really, really well. Ben says the PDC should partner up with Super Series. Look, we'd love to have 65 to 128 be able to play, because also it would help the PDC's products, in my opinion, because it means their lower end tour card holders would get good, hard, competitive match practice, earn money, and not be worried about earning money on the PDC, because they may know they've already covered their mortgage for this month, so they can go there and relax a little bit instead of, like Gob said, playing up tight, Boise.
Yeah, I think it goes back to if one player saying they're not going to go for the tour title this year because it takes away the chance of playing on the Super Series as well as all the other, the seniors, so on and so forth. It takes away that opportunity. If the PDC then allowed a number, whatever number that might be, 65 down or 80 down or whatever sort of number they agreed that they thought was right, then for me, that would make that decision a lot easier for players. So go and try and get the tour title if they haven't already done it, because it would allow them to still do and play in the Challenge Tour, as well as then the Super Series, as well as then if you're old enough, the seniors. So it does make sort of that changes that decision making, because then you can sort of think I can still do and get my tour title or attempt to, and if not, I've got the fallback. If so, for the first year, I can potentially go and play on the Super Series, and then if I hit the top 64, then obviously I don't want to progress and move forward. As if you're in the top 64 after a year, you've done pretty damn well, haven't you? Let's be honest. So then it's sort of a different conversation. So it'd be interesting to see if that changes in the future. And I guess the real sort of Tate we'll see is around January time when it comes to Q-Stall, and if there's a list of names who are not going to go to Q-Stall, there's a big decision if they're still going to continue to play darts will be because of everything else that's outside of it, Super Series, seniors, and the two events that we've got on the poll.
And to be fair, John summed it up there, and that's the issue as well that he said. He said he'll have had 75 days off competitive darts because he didn't make the Euro Tours, and everyone around him is still playing.
Yeah, and
it's a great.
Yeah, and it's sort of back to Dobbs' point of letting people off this week. We're not just letting off the players who have been travelling the world, but we're letting everyone else off because they haven't played any competitive darts. And by the way, John, Dob did note down that you are 47, so you're only a few years away from the seniors. That's been noted, right, Dob? anyone who's in that 45 to 50 bracket, I think we've got a list now of when they're edging closer and closer to that big 5-0.
I cannot confirm or deny that, but you will all be very interested to know there's about 5 weeks difference in age between John Henderson and Wayne Mardle.
Oh. The thing is, Lendl, that goes back to what we said before. The PDC are a promotional company, and unfortunately, people at the lower end don't make the money. That's what it comes down to. But the actual darts itself, we had, I'm going to say a surprise winner because he was the outsider, but Kieran Tian booked himself a place at Champions Week and came good when it mattered. The young lad from Cork played some fabulous stuff.
Played solid. Played very, very well indeed. I really enjoyed finals night, to be fair. I think Wolfie ran out of steam a little bit. I think he started pretty brightly. But yeah, standout was T, and he just looked exceptional.
Yeah. And it all kicked off again today. Lisa actually topped Group A overnight. I had a really good chat with Lisa this morning. She was full of beans. Always good to chat to the Lancashire Rose. She was in fine fettle. Which kind of brings us on to our next point off of the Super Series. Obviously, the comments that George made about being the next one under, being the championship compared to the PDC. Where is the amateur game right now? Because there is a distinct silence around at the moment on both sides. Obviously, the ADC have postponed their World Open due to the financial crisis in the UK, which I get and kind of respect why they've done it. But it's still a setback for the amateur game. The distinct lack of anything from the WDF. There's still no Worlds dates even set. Players are now openly vocal on social media that they want to know where they're playing, when they're playing, and what they're playing for. That's all they're asking. They're not asking for top secret information. It's just a bit of clarity, but there's radio silence. You've got the Masters that's meant to be happening in early December. Players that have qualified for it. Sean Fisher was quite open about it on Twitter that he's qualified for the WDF Masters, but knows absolutely nothing about it in terms of anything. Is it slightly concerning right now?
I think it's hard not to be concerned a little bit, just because of the fact that we don't have any information from the WF, as you said, the fact that the ADC have pushed their event back. I think the ADC, again, get that little bit of grace because their communication has been that little bit better. They've been open about it. They've got it out as early as they can, made that decision, told everybody what they're doing, why they're doing it. But it is still a concern because looking at it right now, genuinely don't see the economy having a big upturn anytime soon. In fact, it looks like we're heading for a recession. New Prime Minister voted in today, immediately takes another hit in the polls, Labour goes favourite for the next general election, which is still 18 months away, absolutely minimum, and a plan to help with the energy crisis in the UK is a loan that we pay back via taxes over the next 10 to 20 years to the energy company. So that's not about to change anytime soon, and nobody's going to have any money whatsoever. So if you're postponing now, I guess the point in that one is how and when do you decide that suddenly everybody is okay again in a position to reopen that and try again? Because if you go too early and you cancel it again, you look a bit daft.
Agreed.
Yeah,
but at the same time, their floor event seems to be doing pretty well. They've launched in Oceania this week. It looked like in New Zealand, I think it was initially. So they are growing into different territories and markets. And I guess that's where the competition part of the poll comes in, is that if the ADC do get different regions set up in different continents, at that point, their reach could match or exceed the WDF with a clearer system of progression to a world title, a world open, or whatever.
The biggest concern for me, I guess, was what, just short of 12 months ago, we were sort of having the debate about WDF with their first big events, the world title, world championship, or whatever you want to call it, in regards to that being in January, then got moved. There was reasons that David got moved, and obviously hearing through the grapevine that those reasons that were given publicly wasn't actually correct. And then you've got the ADC's first bid tournament in the Open, that then being postponed. I'm with you in regards to the reasoning. I can understand why they would do that, but this is their first bid event, and for that now not to go ahead, then probably raises question marks for the people just looking at the outside. As much as the communication is very good from the ADC in comparison, the fact that their first bid major event hasn't gone ahead and has been postponed, and we've now not got a date for that, is concerning. The flip of it, I guess, looking at the other organisation in the WDF, the lack of communication is probably the biggest concern right now for anyone who follows it. It's got such a history when you go back, obviously, BDO days, but they've had one TV event. That one TV event got delayed 3 months. I would say when the event run quite successfully from the public eye, looking at that. And then since then, we've had one other platinum event, which was the Australian Open, that no one could watch. And now we've got a Masters that, by the looks of things, it's changing format. However, when I put that on socials, I was questioned to say that's not happening, where some players have already been told that is the case, but we still don't know the qualifying criteria for that. And then we've got a World Championship that we have no idea where it is, when it is. Is it going to be the same time as other events, clashing with, is it going to be January clashing with Houston, February clashing with the seniors, or back in April and clashing with like Premier League or Euro events? The biggest thing of that is the players don't know. So we've talked about then that you was surprised that the players didn't, or it didn't come out about the Super Series, that players didn't mention that. The fact is with the WDF, the players don't know. The players have no idea where they're going to be competing. And with that happening in December, the Masters, which by the looks of things is going to be in Holland, financially at the moment, players at that level will have to plan for these tournaments, and you'll want to play in the platinum events. The fact that that tournament's 3 months away, and you can't have booked a flight or a hotel, or know if you've qualified yet, know what you need to do to qualify yet. The tournament then surely can't be at the standard that it should be, because you're going to have big players at that level missing out because the can't even afford it, or the risk isn't worth the reward. So it's, for me, it's very,
Especially
very messy.
The time of year that these events normally take place in and around that Christmas period. And the fact Q school, and that players still have aspirations to go and join something else. So they've spent a year traveling around. They want to know if their world championship, their big aim at the end of it, is going to hit before Q school. If they go to Q school and want to take the next step in their career, are they going to miss out on what they just spent their entire year trying to qualify for? I guess part of the issue for me again is
just add to that as well. Not just those. The Super Series now coming in is obviously we've got finals waiting 6 weeks, 7 weeks, October time. You've then got your next batch of 13, where the players have then got to decide, because obviously they'll be asked then to go along to the Super Series, certain players, some of which will agree to weights that will then clash with the Masters, and one's a guaranteed money and one isn't. So then, which you'd understand which way they're going to go, because some of those players would have probably already qualified for the World Championships. So why would the need to go to the Masters?
Q school, the other issue, because if they go and get a tour card, they can't play.
Yeah.
But
and PDC won't let them offer them, I don't think.
No, look, they made one exception last year. They are never, ever going to do that again by the looks of things. The other thing to consider is that when the WDF returned this year, I was a big, big fan, because the amateur game has to exist. There has to be somewhere for these players to go. The communication initially was very, very good. It looked like some things had changed. Socials got that a little bit better. There was a clear plan for everything, immediately announced prize money, blah, 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 blah. That seemed to unravel a little bit as things went on. And look, a lot of me, before the WDF World Championships took place this year, was the event just needs to happen. And whilst I still back that statement, it seems to have put them in a little bit of trouble. And now that there is a viable option to compete with the amateur game, which there never really has been before, let's be honest, there was no ADCs sat in the wings waiting. If anything, as stupid as a statement sounds because of how many people lost their lives and whatever, COVID turned out to be a pretty good thing for darts. It was the only sport that could carry on behind closed doors at the PDC level. It launched the Live League / Super Series. It gave the WDF time to relaunch, and it created the ADC. All of those are off the back of not being able to play in person for 18 months. That break, that fire break, if you like, from competitive sport just allowed organizations to take stock and reset and go again. And I guess part of me wanted the WDF to succeed so well, because the people that had taken it over seemed like they had the best interest of the organisation at heart. You're looking at them to run the amateur side of the game, which the BDO was a shambles. But in terms of countries that affiliate to the BDO in Europe, whilst we might mock their events for players travelling to go and collect ranking points, in terms of a source of income for the Hungarian Darts Federation, for instance, or whatever, that will have a World Cup team and whatever else, they're still massive, massive events in those places. They're effectively national tournaments for them. So you still want them to continue. And I lost my train of thought then. Oh, another thing is the WDF are the governing body recognised by the IOC. So if darts was to ever make the next step up and play in something like the Olympic Games, it would have to be under that banner. And you want to see that success in case that's a possibility. Look, I know that people are going to question whether darts is a sport, whether it's a pub game, whether it's just fat blokes drinking alcohol. But when every organisation is making a conscious effort to clean up the image of the game, to make it that little bit better. And the fact that the IOC no longer classes alcohol as a banned substance, by the way, it's entirely feasible that darts could be put as an Olympic sport, and that would be massive to expose the game to the most watched televised sporting event in the world. Would be a reach that this sport's never ever had, and for that the WDF needed to succeed for the last few months, and it just doesn't look like it's where it wanted to be or needs to be right now.
Evening, Jim. Also on that, obviously, we're continuing the theme of the amateur game here. There's a lot of news within the UK DA as well. And look, although they're not part of the WDF, look, it's all kind of linked because a lot of county players still play in WDF events and everything like that. The hierarchy of the counties seem to all jump in ship as well. We saw that Claire Stamper put on her social media that said, look, I resigned a while ago, but I'm only just putting it out there now, and things like this. It just seems a bit of a mess right now. And look, there's been a lot of calls to reform the county structure for a while. And I just feel, especially that the UKDA missed the trick when they returned from the COVID break as well. Like you said there, Gob, that there was a lot of organisations that COVID did well for. I just think the UKDA especially missed the trick. Instead of going with the old.
They didn't. In terms of the quality, the marketing, the sponsorship deals, and everything else that have come into English county darts in particular, let's not forget that everyone else pretty much split off. The Scots do their own thing and whatever. That's better than it's ever been before. Right, they've come out, they've tried something different in Magic Weekend that a lot of people loved, a lot of people didn't like. The problem is
Weekend, I love the concept. Love the concept of Magic Weekend.
A lot of people didn't like it, and look, there were teething issues with it, but it's a completely new thing. But I guess the issue with that is when you're a new organisation that, let's not forget, went through a pretty big battle just to exist or to take over the running of the national county game, a part of the game that has been struggling for the last couple of years to attract people because the end game perhaps isn't quite as rewarding as going to a WDF Open or whatever and chasing ranking points for an ADC event or a PDC event or whatever. So it's more and more difficult to attract players to play county at their own cost, to drive from, say you live in Carlisle and you're playing against Devon one weekend. That's entirely possible in this system. And I think where they were trying to fight off Tri-Nations, the remnants of the BDO and whatever else, they were trying to please too many people at once. And it's a lot easier to not change anything. People are reluctant and resistant to change. And I genuinely think that last year, I don't see them making a lot of mistakes. I thought what they did was really, really good. Again, Magic Weekend caused some debate either way. Some people didn't like it. Some people did like it. But in terms of getting results out, social media, player of the week or player of the month or round of fixtures or whatever, all of that stuff was brilliant. They took a step up in terms of the marketing. But personally, I'd like to see regionalised county groups with national finals after that. It happens in pretty much every other sport that has a county level game. And whilst there is quite a big difference in the ability of some county teams that would end up grouped next to each other, you could have tier, you could have top team from each of these goes to this finals day, second from each of these goes to wherever. And that encourages you to grow and get better as well. I just think the travelling costs are such a big part of that setup and that type of darts.
Well, I was about to say that on Sunday,
yeah,
especially in the cost of living crisis that we've got now, that on Sunday I went to watch Berkshire against Cleveland. Now, that's not a small trip. And some players have made that trip for potentially 4 legs of darts, 5 legs of darts.
Three.
Cost them,
3 is the minimum they can play. Anybody but the men's A.
Yeah, so they've travelled ridiculous diesel, hotel costs, living costs for the weekend for such a small number of darts. It just seems such an antiquated system now where keeping people local, so traveling's not as much and everything like that just seems a sensible idea now. But like you say, it's been the same for so long that there just seems a reluctance to change. Copied that with everything else that's going on. It's not the best looking horizon at the moment, Boise.
Yeah, and that's the fine line. I guess we spoke about it around like the Masters and the change of sets and leads. You've got to be careful of making sure there's a fine balance between changing something for the good reasons, i.e. looking at the cost of living and all that sort of things, but also changing the history of where these competitions have come from and changing it drastically that it doesn't have the same feel about it. So it is a very, very fine line of doing that. But to travel and put that commitment in to go and play potentially 3 legs of darts, it's very, very expensive these days, staying over a weekend, especially. I've add to that 4 hours of travelling, petrol cost, all that sort of things. It can be a very, very expensive game at that level for little reward. And then, depending on where you are in your game, that can be a lot for very, very little reward. So you've got to be careful, though, on the flip of that you're not changing too much. That it doesn't have the same feel of representing your county, which I'm sure is a fantastic feeling to go and do that. And I spoke to a couple of people this weekend who represented West Midlands, and one of which done it for the first time, and he would have travelled probably anywhere in the country to have that feeling of representing your county, whether it be for 1 leg or 5 or 6. So it depends on where you are and how much, like I says, financially that can impact. But the financial side of that, unfortunately, in this country is only going to get worse over the next few months and probably into next year.
Also, as well, there's a distinct change in amateur darts as well for me, where you go back maybe 10 years, maybe a little bit less, that people wanted to win the titles, the prestige of winning the British Classic, the Welsh Open, the Scottish Open was up there on the agendas, where now it's all about how much cash you can win. Even as an amateur, you see people, it's all about the dollar at the end of it, where you look at the weekend and there's a list of open tournaments. Which one can I win the most money at? Which I get, but the mentality has changed, Gob, and the amateur side now is being dictated by funds or lack of them, and not a good thing when the funds don't seem to be there.
Yeah, look, traditionally those funds would have been propped up by mass fields. These tournaments can have 70 plus players at and over 100 in the past, sort of thing. But when there are so many, running a darts tournament is not the most difficult thing to set up in the world. Look, it takes time and experience and a little bit of software or whatever, but you can run a darts tournament with relatively little experience from a computer. So anybody thinks they can do it. Same with YouTube channels, right? Over lockdown, everybody thought they could have a YouTube channel. Same example. But the only way I think that events see attracting more players is to increase the top level prize money. But in doing so, you potentially scare off players that don't think they can win it. If I go and have a £2,000 first prize for a local open, I'm going to attract some serious talent from around the country. And at that point, why is my local league teammate that averages 56 going to pay £10, £15 to enter and have a go for the day out? He's not. Because chances are he's going to get smashed by a Super League player who's rocked up in day one that averages 80 plus for the year, who's there hunting the cash.
Yeah. And look, there doesn't seem like an easy fix to any of this. And suppose going back to our original point, that these governing organisations need to get information out quick. Otherwise, it's going to be too late.
Yeah, that probably goes back to the positives I said about the ADC. Like I says, I was disappointed with the news around the Open, but the one thing that certainly goes in the favour of the ADC is that the communication has been very, very good since the ADC changed, and even when it was in MAD, communication's been very, very good. And I know it's a cliche sort of saying, but communication is key. People need to know in advance, especially, like it says, more so when there's that more of a financial hit. You just need to know what it is you're playing for, what it is that you want to enter. So these competitions can get off the ground, and it's all about being open and speaking to your players who are going to invest their time, their money. And it's not just on that day. People don't just turn up and play in these. It's the dedication throughout the year, and having that sort of yearly plan of where your darts 3 is going to be. And whether that's Dob who plays in the Vodka Wednesday League to a pro player, you still need that plan of when you're playing. You still need to know when you're playing, what you're playing in, what you're aiming towards. That needs to be the plan. You're welcome, Dob.
Did you call it the Vodka Wednesday?
Vodka Wednesday League.
Yeah. It is, isn't it?
I suppose, but it goes back to the seniors. They're already announcing dates for 2023 already, so players know the date they're going for. They know the date is in the calendar already,
and
it
that's
goes
just
back
publicly
to
as well. By the way, we've in the group communication we have with tour card holders, they've pretty much got next year mapped out.
Yeah.
They've not been 100% public yet, and they will be very soon.
Well, and again, on that, I'm expecting the PDC calendar to drop this month for 2023. Yeah, traditionally it drops in September. So it will be interesting if that drops before any WDF World Championship news.
Oh, it 100% will. 100%. I don't see the WDF Worlds being announced anytime this month. If I'm being honest, there's an event before that is their second biggest event that's still yet to be announced. It's 3 months away. So
I was going to say, surely you need to get the Masters out first.
And I've been sources told me that the announcement on the Masters is due in the next couple of weeks. That's still too late, but that will be before any announcement on the Worlds. So the PDC announcement will come beforehand. From a WDF perspective, it's their World Championship. They should be announcing that. For me, we've said it plenty of times, and this is to the PDC about qualification, all that sort of things. For these organisations that are either professional or semi-professional, you should know what you're doing in 12 months' time. Your calendar should be set out at that level for what you're doing throughout the year. So a World Championship that we don't know about in either 4 to 7 months, we shouldn't be concerned about that one. We should be thinking about when's the one for 19 months' time. We should already be looking for that so players can plan what their future's going to look. Even more so, if players are not going to have a tour card, they need that plan. PDC's sort of always set. There's probably going to be a few venue changes, as we normally see on Euro Tour. But generally, we know when Blackpool's going to hit. We know when the 2 minor dates are going to hit. We generally know when the Grand Prix is going to hit. Grand Slam as well, very similar. It's just those Pro Tour events and when they sit. But from the WDF and ADC, we need a better understanding of where their calendar's going to work. And when I say we, I actually mean the players need a better understanding. Otherwise, the ADC and WDF will miss out on having bid players because they will have already signed up for the Super Series or would have already signed up for the seniors, and they would have signed up for events, and they will just miss out on some big names. It's only going to impact them.
it's a real talking point, and we could almost do a full show on this, because there are so many question marks around it right now. And like I say, the more frustrating thing, like we said, is the silence. If there's a problem, just come and say it and get it out in the open. At least players know. Hiding it and masking it just makes it worse. Like the BDO found out by telling the players once they'd already started what they were playing for and stuff like that. They knew prior to the tournament that prize money wasn't there, but chose not to say anything. And we all know how that ended up. So if there's an issue, just come out and say it.
Is that Steve saying the ADC calendar is in discussion?
I like that. And I like the fact he's listening. It's good. But again, we've said that their communication has been better than anyone's in the amateur game. And we've said that from day one. And that's why players still trust it, because they know. It goes back to radio silence is the issue.
Yeah, and that is the difference between the two. As Steve's mentioned there, assuming it's Steve, that's a calendar that's been discussed. We're on about the WDF announcing one tournament and then potentially another tournament a month or two down the line. But these are the biggest two of the year. We don't know what's in plan for next March, April, May for the WDF. That calendar, there should be an announcement. As there is with the PDC, there should be just a calendar announcement so the players can plan. And we see the best players at these tournaments that are available.
Oh, yeah, completely. But again, and that lack of planning is there because, like you say, you've got the Masters scheduled for second weekend in December. You've then got the PDC Worlds, Q School, and a potential clash with the WDF Worlds if it goes in its original date. We don't know. If they go too long and go past that, it's then going to clash potentially with or sit close to the Dutch Open, the PDC Masters, the opening of the Premier League, and the Seniors Worlds. And if it goes any later than that, then the players, again, have wasted a huge chunk because the ranking system is then skewed because it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
No, and it's the tour card holder argument because we know of certain players who, yes, some it did benefit, some it didn't, who didn't go to Tewstall in January because of the WDF World Championships being moved. Obviously, we know then you were still able to play even if you would have gone to Tewstall. But there's that sort of decision then, and these players are having to think about what they're going to do the rest of that year, but it's all resting on an announcement to say when that World Championship is.
It's interesting
Because if that lands Tewstall week, then it's the same sort of debate. Do you go to Tewstall, which, as we talked about, is a lottery, or do you go and compete for the WDF Worlds, which at the moment we don't know when it is, but equally the players don't know how much they're playing for.
Yeah, Patrick, I agree. There probably will be a new Masters trophy. I just hope they're better than those World trophies because I'm not going to like Pac-Man on a plank.
They look like the pizza.
Horrific.
Pizza with the slice missing.
Didn't Nils break on the second day at it or something?
Yes.
Right. Moving on. A week in darts. I saw some news on Twitter before we broke. Corey Cadby got to a quarter-final at the weekend in Tasmania. The King is back throwing some competitive darts, boys. This should be seen as encouragement.
Maybe. It's not the all-conquering Corey. He's been out the game for a while. It is undeniable that he is a character and that the sport needs characters. And if he can get back to the level that he was at, he had unbelievable talent.
Yes, Lendl. I am 100% on board with that.
Lendl, you pay for him to come over. We'll put him in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see more of him. I think we all do. I think most darts fans do. He can fall into that category of a sort of love him or hate him type with some of his antics on stage. However, even if you're not a huge fan, he's still someone you want to see. It's a bit like the Derwin Price. It's
if he can get back to the levels if he can get back to the levels pre-issues, he is box office. And I still think to this day, if he'd have come back from Australia when he went home, if he'd have come back, because obviously he never came when he went home, he never came back. If he'd have come back, he'd be in the Premier League. He'd have been in the Premier League, no doubt whatsoever, because of those boxes that he ticked. But it is a long way back for him. Right, the other one, the PDC Chinese Premier League has thrown up some interesting issues, shall we say, boys, around the world we live in these days.
Jotovic's times
tell us who's not playing and tell us who's replaced him.
You know you do the names. Oh, butcher!
I haven't got the names in front of me. Zong, who has absolutely dominated the China Premier League, is allergic to the COVID vaccination, so is not allowed to leave the country.
Correct.
So, Zhicheng Han, the runner-up from finals, I think, will be making his way to Ali Pali instead, which is a bit of a shame, really, because Zong has been incredibly dominant in that, and it would have been interesting to see him participate at this level. I don't want to get too much into the politics, but China seems very, very backwards.
Well, I was going to say,
I've seen videos of drones flying around telling people to stay inside their house still because somebody on the street had a cough.
I was going to say, he's posted some impressive high 90s averages as well in this Chinese Premier League. So it's a real blow to him and the world that he won't be there. I was about to say, without going into the politics, I'm guessing, is it a Chinese law that he can't leave the country because he's not vaccinated?
I think so, yeah.
I was going to say, because you can come into the UK if you're not vaccinated, as long as you're negative and that, can't you? So
I'm not even sure they check that anymore.
No, that's what I mean. But look, that's a real blow for darts in China as well, because we've said it before that China are one of these countries that if they get a star or get someone to get behind, the sport balloons. We saw what it did in snooker when the likes of Ding and everyone like that were getting involved, and it just ballooned. So this was the perhaps the shot to get darts in China huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once China goes, the rest of Asia tends to follow. Because look, we had James Wattener and Marco Fu in the snooker, but the minute Ding came about, it's we got that real burst in Asia, and there is significant investment in China as well. The amount of snooker events that moved to China, the amount of money that got pumped into the sport from China, and if it has a similar impact on darts, look, a lot of our players won't like it, or a lot of tour card holders won't like it. What am I saying, our players? But if there's increased prize money every week in a climate that's cooler than going to Saudi Arabia.
Well, you look at it, the knock-on effect was Yang Bingtao from the Ding era, who's come along and looks sensational. And the more you get to know him, I remember when he won the Masters, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and his English wasn't great at the time, but you could see there was a personality there. He was interviewed like 3 or 4 months later, put a lot of effort into learning English and everything like that, and his personality just shone through. So if that can happen in snooker, it can happen in darts if there's a figurehead and someone to believe in.
Yeah, 100%.
What else a week in darts have we missed?
Few announcements today, Dob.
Yeah, seniors.
World seniors.
Yeah. We've only spent 4 hours getting them out. Yeah. Double check what we've announced now. The match play is moving to the Barbican in York, which ties in nicely with the snooker link, I guess, as well. Host of the UK Championship. But yeah, that event is moving there. And the other one is the tour has committed 25% of the field for the 3 TV events that we've seen this year for the World Championship, for the World Match Play, and the World Masters next year. 25% of those fields will be taken up with qualifiers, which is quite a big increase for some of those compared to what we've seen this year. And actually, look, when you've been as close to the tour as I have at events, at the Open Series, at the qualifiers, the standard there is really, really good. So I think that's a reflection of that and how well the players have performed on the floor events, and that we'll get to see more of those. Because let's be honest, David Cameron won at Lakeside from a qualified position. We've seen Richie Howson go deep. We've seen Colin McGarry play really well. Dave Prinz wasn't bad. Brian Dawson played pretty steady as well. So that's the qualifiers we've seen already. And if we get more players like those coming through, we've got Andy Jenkins pretty high up in the rankings, Darren Johnson, Martin Turner, Robert Rickwood's climbing, Jim McEwen's into the top 12, I think, at the minute, considering he's missed an awful lot of the events as well. So, look, there's definitely talent there. You got names like Andy Hamilton, Chuck Norris, Mace, all floating around as well that are more than capable. So the chance to see more of those play over the next couple of years would be superb.
On the seniors, should the rest be worried when a certain power said he wants to play in the Super Series as well after the weekend? He said it live on TV. He was like, I want to go here.
Yes and no, because we've spoken to Phill after all 3 events so far. And every single time he's told us he knows what he needs to do. He needs to get off his backside. He needs to practice a bit. And he turns up at the next one and goes, I've not done any practice. I need to do some practice this time. I don't like getting beat. I'm going home to practice. Lads, I've not done any practice. So if he puts it in, then yeah. Obviously, he let a couple of other things slip during that broadcast, which are good signs. His eyes done. Potentially some new equipment. And they can only be motivators for Phill to carry on playing again.
Yeah. I love Johnny's comment in the chat room here. Imagine Matt Porter trying to convince Anderson to go to China every 3 weeks.
No, they're not happening.
Some nice fishing, mate.
It's hard enough convincing Gary to go to Wolverhampton, let alone Beijing.
It's hard enough convincing me. Still there, it's only around the corner.
Anything else in a week? Have we nailed it all? Obviously, Euro Tour, Jena this weekend.
County was back this weekend after we spoke about the UK earlier. First weekend back. I don't think there was any major stories from it though. Yorkshire lost to Warwickshire, which they've dominated County for a long, long time. A few decent averages floating around. I think I saw a 35 something from someone, which is a 105. I think Rhiannon Sullivan played Lisa Ashton at the weekend, and Rhiannon beat her. Probably the biggest story from that one. She had the best average of the weekend for any lady. I need to give a shout out to Stewie C, who is watching or potentially watching, because I bought some darts off eBay. He recognised my username, messaged me, and knocked the postage and package off. So big thanks, mate.
Full edge. So yeah, well, we'll open the chat room. Time to get your questions in. If we think of anything we've missed, we'll hop back on.
Just looking at this weekend.
Yep.
Do we envisage many people dropping out?
Which one's this one?
MVG
This is Jenna.
MVG
Jenna.
said he wasn't going to Vienna.
There's at least one.
But then, is that an official before the draw's made, or is someone going to have a buy into the third round, which is frustrating?
All I will say is Michael is quite professional, and I'm pretty sure they will already know that he's not in.
Any more? We suspect.
I would be surprised to see Johnny there. I don't know this.
Anyone that has a dragon on their flag, I think, might not.
I would be surprised to see Johnny there. I don't see him going. Doesn't need to. Well, actually, does he? Because of his seeding.
Strongly seeded.
Johnny definitely fits in that Dimmy category early, though. It just needs a break.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he looks knackered. Yeah, other than that, I think it should be okay. So, any CDC at the weekend? I didn't see any, to be fair. As in, because their socials are normally very good. I didn't see any.
There might have been some the week before, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Lee, I can confirm that Mr. Burton's missing dart has been found safe and well. He dropped it down the smoke machine hole.
Oh, it was asked earlier, and I said go to the Modus socials, but actually knowing that we'd probably have a discussion about it or just a little bit of an announcement about it, if you do want to go and watch the Saturday nights at the Super Series, what are you laughing at?
Oh, sorry, I've just got a message off someone in the chat room, which I won't repeat, but I won't say who it is, but it's bloody funny.
You can go and watch on a Saturday night now. Tickets are free, but you do have to effectively pre-register for them. So go and grab yourself a free ticket via the Dart Shop website. Go to the Modus socials and you can find that there. If you fancy a late night in Pompey on a Saturday night.
It just looked absolutely mint, though, didn't it? With all the lights going for the 180s and so yeah, but yeah, Mr. Burton's dart has been found safe and well. Any more news on the international qualifiers for Ali Pali from Robbo? I know normally a lot of them happen around the September, October time, don't they? Traditionally.
I'm sure there's a couple of people keeping a list, but I need to find it. So
yeah, but is Devon going to have to go back to the South African route this year? Because he's not had a good year, is he?
But he's not badly placed, is he?
Just having a look. World race.
38th on the main order of merit, 60th on the Pro Tour. So he needs to find 23 grand to overtake Eddie Lewis on the main.
So, yeah, on that one, Jim says, yep, get Taylor in the Super Series. Might stop the moan about new players. Absolutely, Jim. People just don't get the logistics. But, yeah, I know exactly what you mean, buddy. Will Bow play the Modus Super Series? She has been asked, Lendl. She was asked about the Live League beforehand, and yes, she has been asked about the Super Series. Don't know what the answer is, but the question has been asked. John,
can we have a quick chat about week 12, by the way? Because at the minute, there's only 3 names. There's only 3 names in week 12, according to the commentary earlier, but 2 of them are Chris Mason and Paul Nicholson.
Just leave it as them 2. It's fine.
Well, the other one's
For the
Andy
week.
Jenkins, so I dread to think what the evenings are going to be like when they got nothing else to do. As a man who experienced an evening with Andy Jenkins in Reading this year, never again.
I'm just looking. I'm not going to say it out loud, but I'm just looking at week 12 now. Not all confirmed, but the ones that are penciled in, it looks like a good week.
Also, Mace, if you are watching, sitting there commentating earlier, oh, they'll beat me, I'll be the whipping boy, blah, blah. The man's got more ton plus averages in the seniors than anybody else. Admittedly, he only does that on a Friday night, so you have to hope he makes Group B. But yeah, he was the first man to hit one, and he's hit more than anybody else.
Love the flyer.
Oh, but I'm no good. I'm no good anymore. Shut it, Mace.
So yeah, that was that. Yes, Daniel trying to sort out one with Matt as we speak, so that'll be good. Thank you very much. Dan says about the format and that being good. Yeah, look, it's unreal. Big Johnny confirms he's not going to Jena. James says, will players not play in the Premier League to concentrate on Pro Tour events? No, look, they won't turn down the... Well, there's one that may, but 99% of players won't turn down the Premier League for
100%.
Pro Tours.
Right. 100%.
There's only one that might.
No.
Honestly, genuinely, having spoken to him, he has no intention of playing in any unranked event. And he genuinely needs it.
It doesn't matter until he's out. If he's asked the question in December, January, I think he still says yes.
I spoke to him this time last week.
I'm not sure he does. I'm really not.
If he wins the Worlds, he's not playing.
Yeah. He is. In the middle of a chat, might be in the middle of confirming a guest for next week. Just in the middle of chatting at the moment, whilst we're talking to you guys.
Do they speak with a funny accent?
Anyone speaks in a funny accent to you?
Can't help being educated.
If you're the educated one, there's a problem.
Remember, keep your questions coming in. What have we got? How's Nicholson? We'll mic him up for you, Johnny, so he can do commentary whilst playing.
Please, an exhibition week where they play mic'd up. Self-commentate.
There are some players.
Those are the days when the players are calling out their own scores. Now is one of the best in the world.
There are some players that I would not let near a microphone whilst they were playing because we'd be shut down and banned instantly. Oh yeah, whilst we're on the subject of that, massive shout out to Charlie Corstefine because he is only going one way. He is absolutely a top draw referee already for a young man.
Like, all the referees that the Super Series or Live League use have been quality, but Charlie Corstefine is world class. I don't think I've ever seen him make a mistake. Just ridiculous level.
Here we go. He's just agreed. Next week on the live lounge will be the ADC Steve Brown.
Woo! With his new calendar.
He can have it up behind him. He can have it up behind him on the back. Just find him straight down inside. No pressure, Steve.
You could have just knock it on the wall and see if anybody noticed.
Yeah, you've got to wait to come up with your yearly calendar and produce one to put on the back wall that we can all read. No pressure.
Is William O'Connor into the World Championships? Yes, Bob. The run at the weekend has put him into a provisional World Championship spot. He currently is 16th on 25.25. Not guaranteed,
but there is a long way to go.
That's what I was going to say. That's why I said provisional spot. I didn't say he's in. He's in a provisional spot. But considering at the start of the weekend, he was miles off.
Certainly take it. What about European Championship? We've also got Grand Prix in 3-4 weeks' time.
Yeah, 2 Euro Tours left to qualify.
I don't like that. I think the last event before every single major should be a Pro Tour.
Block of Pro. I'm with you. I don't like the Euro Tour as the cut-off either. But actually, in the PDC's defence, I'm going to stick up for him here. When it was in Ireland, there was 2 Pro Tours beforehand, if you remember.
Yeah.
So they're meant to be.
And one thing we did miss out on, Phil, and at least we know the qualifying criteria before that tournament's done. There's one thing we missed out on in the weight of darts was the 2 World Series PDC invites were announced.
Yeah.
Did we not do them last week?
No, because it was announced this week.
It was only announced this week, wasn't it?
Was it?
It was only announced on Tuesday, I think. Tuesday or Wednesday.
Slacking, you two.
To be fair though, I'm actually although I don't like both picks, I like the fact they've gone down the actual World Series route though, and they haven't gone for the obvious. I like the fact they've gone for players that have played in the World Series. I would have liked one from the Oceanic region, one from the North American region, personally.
I like both picks. I'm not against both picks. Obviously, they do get more opportunities. You can see why the 2 have been picked. They were the 2 best performing Oceanic representatives that weren't already qualified at that point, especially Gordon Mathers, who picked up the Kyle Anderson Memorial Trophy. It would be silly of them to not invite him after awarding him that for performance-based over 3 events. However, Mathers went to the qualifying event and failed.
Yeah, and the fact that they got 3 events means that they were going to get more opportunities. I'd have liked another North American in there, Lauby or something like that, personally. Look, I get it, and look, they're both great players.
Why having a qualifier before those 3 events, was stupid. There we go. It's taken an hour and 48 minutes, but it was stupid.
Stupid.
It just was. How can you fail to qualify for something and then be awarded a spot in? Because that was a thing I was pretty adamant on. When we looked at the players that didn't go to the qualifier, for me, if they were going to choose outside of players that have played on the World Series so far this year, it had to be players that didn't go to the qualifier. Because anybody that went to the qualifier had a chance to make the finals and failed.
Yeah.
And whilst Mather's performances in Australia probably justify his invitation, when you look at the players that had already been invited from various performances throughout the rest of the World Series, 100% justified. The fact that he had already tried and failed annoys me. And again, look, some things have changed last minute across the year. We just spoken about the Grand Prix not having an event the weekend before because it's not in Ireland anymore, etc. But to host that qualifier before your qualifying events are done, Stupid.
Yeah, I didn't see this one at the weekend, right? But Big Johnny says Russ's rule book. Didn't he call a foul throw against Joe Cullen? Joe gave it the old VAR go to the monitor, and it was overturned.
Yes. He did. And rightly so. And whilst there isn't a VAR, there was a point I saw on social media that I 100% agree with, and this probably should have happened in the past, is that every match has a second referee, and I don't think they're used enough.
Well, I was about to ask, was it the second referee that overturned the foul throw then?
Don't know.
Because if Russ has called it...
Didn't pay that much attention to it. But, yeah, look, they're there. Things like encroachment in the exclusion zone should definitely be monitored by that second referee. And it would solve so many issues and problems that we've seen in the past. What?
Players don't encroach, do they?
Shut up. Giggling like a child, boy. You know for when it happens.
They all do it. It's easier to say who doesn't do it than who does.
Yeah. But if there's a second referee stopping them from doing it, or giving them warnings, or whatever, then no.
Yeah. Yes, Dan, there is an age limit. Have to be 18 to play in the Super Series.
Which means I need to wait a bit.
Tommy says, should the PDC move Pro Tours to different locations? This has been spoken about for a while because they used to have them. They used to use the K2 at Crawley a lot. The Rivermead at Reading. This is going back some, but that was used. I remember that was used for the.
Way back.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking of venues they have used. They used the Rivermead at Reading.
They used to rotate between 4. Oh, that's before me as well. The 4 ones that I remember: K2, Rico, Metrodome, Robin Park.
Yeah.
And as a rotation, that's a pretty decent spread. You've got as far south as you're likely to go in Crawley, Midlands-ish in Coventry, South Yorkshire in Barnsley, and grim up there, Wigan.
But MK's been used a lot as well in recent years for Pro Tours. Even pre-COVID, there was a lot of Pro Tours.
That's not that old, is it?
No. Look, it's something that's been said a lot before. Do I think they should be spread out a little bit? Yeah, I do. I think there should be something in the middle of the country at least, so it's sort of like level for everyone. But for cost,
what I do think,
costing, I understand why they are where they are. Everything's cheaper up north.
What I absolutely do think is the PDC should by now have a purpose-built arena.
Oh, completely. We've said this for years. You built a purpose-built hall in the middle of the country that you can do your snooker qualifiers in, your darts qualifiers, and you're not hiring out anything. It's purpose-built. It's there, ready to go.
Yeah, as a matchroom venue as well. And if you make it
Yeah.
decent enough shape. You could probably put small boxing fights in there. You could host a pool scene, which is getting a lot bigger, by the way. 9-ball pool is getting much, much bigger. Snooker qualifiers if and when you need it. And if you've got roll-away seating on the outside and whatever else pushes in, you could have floor events in there, and you could have small, something like the Masters. Sack Milton Keynes off. Put a hotel next to it. Get one of the big chains to pay for it. Go and run a deal with one of the big hotel chains. Right, you could build that next door. You give us this price for any player that plays for it. Rest of the year, you have it. Like the Hilton at St. George's Park.
I like MK.
Why?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to MK.
Why? Because it's only an hour and 40 minutes from mine, and it's got a Wagamama's on the side of the stadium.
All about you.
Correct.
As a town,
don't
it has
mind
too
them
many
cards,
roundabouts and not a lot of history. And they nick someone else's football team.
The history's got to start somewhere. So,
Anyway, you're a Liverpool fan. Don't go on about history until you won the Premier League a few years ago. That's all we heard about with your history.
Because it's the best history in the country. I'd be mad, be better.
Evening, Shawnee Mac. How we doing? Oh, God, you're in the bad books as well. Steve said he can't understand you.
I didn't know it was Steve. You might have thought maybe you're inviting a Scotsman or an Irishman on.
Steve, he knew it was you all along. I'll tell you. He knew it was you. Stop staring.
Get that pot out. Get that pot out. Come on, give it a whirl.
Saying absolutely nothing. No, not vodka. I've not drank today.
Honestly, the state he was in last week on Wednesday was hilarious because the messages we got in our WhatsApp chat of him on Thursday was not in a good way. You consume some Lucozade that day.
Our matches start at 8:30 on a Wednesday. Do you know what time we got to the pub?
5, straight after work.
I finished work at 5:30.
6.
We're at the pub at 10 to 6.
Need to take
I was 5-sided deep by 6:30.
The Bob to lead.
Their team walked in, 2 county players. I throw a 1-3-5 and went, yeah, I wasted that last start because I don't need it against you lot. You're crap. We lost 6-2. I won my singles and I contributed the other pair. Good work, mate.
Remember, there's no iron team.
No, but I'm captain as well, so my shoulders are killing.
Oh my! What are you oh mying about?
Well, I told you earlier how Tyson Fury had called out Anthony Joshua.
Right, what's he done now?
9 minutes ago, Joshua's responded saying, "I'll be ready in December."
Oh my! Yeah, but Fury can't have it both ways. Remember, he wanted to fight for free if it was against Joshua, but then he wanted $500 million.
Well, Joshua's his ticket to $500 million because I was talking to my friends about this earlier about the significant difference in pay-per-views that each of these boxes bring in. Wilder Fury 1 did 745,000 views or buys or something. Wilder Fury 2, which is Fury's best ever pay-per-view, would rank 6th in Joshua's pay-per-views, and his 5th was Povetkin.
Yeah.
No way he fights AJ. What's the point? Because he beats AJ, and it's a payday in terms of pay-per-view numbers and grows his market.
They will both be paid an absolute king's ransom to fight.
This one has to be in the UK, though.
Yeah, but we all know Saudi will come along and go, here you go. Here's your $1 billion for the site fee. Has Stoke lost its touch as the hotbed of darts? Oh, absolutely, Tommy. It's not what it was.
Maybe they all just need eye surgery and then they're going to be kings.
Yet to see, Dob. Yet to see.
And a new product release.
Right, last couple then before we wrap up for tonight. What have you got for us? We've probably missed some as well. There was one that I saw that I quite liked that we missed. Someone said, can't remember who it was, my apologies. Best treble 19 and treble 18 hitter in the world.
Treble 18, Rob Cross.
Got to be up there.
Yeah.
It's hard to think of someone who goes for it as much and hits it as frequently.
Do you know who does it quite frequently? Because of his poor setup play elsewhere. Because he's finally learnt how to switch and then hits a single 19 and realises he's on 262 way too often.
Who?
James Wade.
Oh, James has summed it up there completely. Back in the day, Dennis Priestley, he was the ultimate cover on treble 18s. That was his switch.
'19s, Rasmus in the conversation. Going Price is in the conversation. It's scary just how good his switch is, actually.
MVG as well. The amount of 1-3-4s he hits when his first low is unreal.
And the other one, surprising because he hits a fair few 180s. Damon Heta. He effectively played Michael Smith on the World Series, lost 6-5, playing on 19s.
Oh, all right, John. We'll get you on as well. There we go. We've got Steve and John coming on next week. What can go wrong?
Funny accent. I told you it was coming.
He said it about you. Didn't say it about you, John.
Steve says we should run our own organisation.
No,
could you imagine?
Stupid.
Could you imagine?
Phill can't even run a bath, and it's much easier to sit here and criticise everyone else. Can't lie.
and I'm in a WhatsApp chat with a pair of you, and if we think the communication of one brand is very slow, we won't be able to agree on anything between the three of us. Not a chance.
Actually,
if we run it,
I've run organisation. I used to run the National Student Organisation. That was like 350 members. I've been there and done that.
Used to.
Yeah, I'm too old now.
So they don't remember how bad you were because they were all drunk.
Yeah.
What are you lying for? They love me.
What you run right now is a team in Vodka Wednesday League, Dob. That's what you run.
If we do
Very
it, can
well,
I pick the names of the corners?
No. I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. And I can't throw you very far, Phill.
It would be brilliant. Right, everyone, thank you very, very much for your support this evening. The last few hours have flown by. Remember, the Super Series returns tomorrow, 9:30. The Lancashire Rose, Lisa Ashton leads the way. Will she stay there? Time will tell. I've been Phill Bars, Jack Garwood, and Lee Boyce. We have been Online Darts. Remember, give us a follow. All social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Before you go, make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We will be back next Monday where the Euro Tour in Vienna will be completed. And now we'll be joined by the Joker, John O'Shea, and the Bomber, Steve Brand. See you all next week.
This is just the beginning.